From Kiev, I am joined by the former Prime Minister of Ukraine, Oleksiy Honcharuk. Mr. Honcharuk, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, thank you, friends, for attention to our country.
It is, we are reporting from across Kiev today, and we are very concerned. Mr. Honcharuk, firstly, you are on the direct list that apparently has been reported. There is an arrest or kill list that Russia has. The Russians are in and around Kiev, but you have chosen to stay on in Kiev, and you say that you're learning to fight yourself. So, are you aware that you're on a list, allegedly, that Russia has of people who must either be quickly arrested, taken into custody by the Russians, or killed?
You're right. There is a list, but I'm not afraid because we have this war already 8 years, and all Ukrainians in danger. All Ukrainians in Putin's kill list, because Putin has his red button, and we realize that this mad strong man can use this button any moment. So I believe that Putin recognizes only power, and that's why it's absolutely not enough from the Western countries, from civilized world, to have economic sanctions. It's absolutely necessary to show him that NATO and civilized world, all over the world, free world, will protect Ukraine military if he will continue his actions, his military actions. They crossed all possible lines. So it's not about me. All Ukrainian people now in danger, in direct danger. You showed perfectly that Putin attacked, he bombed, shelled Kiev, our capital, but not only Kiev, a lot of our cities in Ukraine. And that means that Ukrainian people on Ukrainian land can't feel themselves safe if Putin is still attacking our country.
But how long can Ukraine hold out? I thought, Mr. Honcharuk, that the NATO would act if the Russian forces were to go beyond Luhansk or the Donetsk region. And when Kiev started getting pounded, and our reporters are sending us some really disturbing pictures of the nature of bombings that have happened, I would have expected NATO to respond by now. You're pleading, you're asking. What we are hearing is, okay, America is going to give $350 million of assistance. Is that what you need? Will that help you in any way? Do you really expect NATO or America to respond? And if they don't respond militarily, then what will you do? How can you take on Russia? You can hold out for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks at most, but can you avoid a takeover?
First of all, we should realize that Russia already lost an initiative. Thousands of Russian soldiers already killed, more than 100 tanks already destroyed, more than 500 military machines were destroyed already. Our Ukrainian military forces acting perfectly, very effectively against Russians. So we're not afraid. Now we are pushing back very effectively. And they already have lost a lot of their people. And I believe that Ukraine is strong enough to push back anyway. I'm sure, I'm confident about this. But 8 years ago, when Russia started this war, when Russia invaded Ukraine, annexed Crimea, invaded Donbass and Luhansk region, the response of NATO, Western world response was very weak. It was vegetarian. It was so weak that Putin understood that for him, it's possible to do everything he wants. If now the West will repeat the same mistake, the West will have additional more wars by Mr. Putin. So it's absolutely necessary for the future of the world to show to Mr. Putin that in 21st century, it's absolutely unacceptable to use military power to change borders, to attack neighbors, peaceful, democratic neighbors. It's not a battle for Ukraine. It's not a regional conflict. Russia invaded Ukraine because of our democratic choice, because we are democracy. And Putin is scared of democracy. The main threat to Mr. Putin, to Kremlin's regime, criminal regime, is to have a democracy in Russia. And Ukraine is a perfect example for Russian people that it's possible on a post-Soviet space, it's possible to build successful, democratic, free country. That's why Putin is so aggressive towards Ukraine. And that's why Mr. Putin attack us to destroy our nation and to take our freedom.
With us live right now, I'd like to reintroduce you. Many people joining in right now, Mr. Honcharuk. And with us now live is Oleksiy Honcharuk. He's remarkably young, former Prime Minister of Ukraine. He's been Prime Minister of Ukraine for about a year and has been pivotal to the transformation of Ukraine's post-Soviet state apparatus. And he's a fierce critic of Putin. And ladies and gentlemen, he keeps saying, he's saying it now tonight. And if you viewers, you have a question, I'll take one question. Mr. Honcharuk, I'm going to invite questions from the public watching tonight. I'll take one question, ladies and gentlemen. You send me the question on coup. On coup, we'll take one question. You can ask the question directly to Mr. Honcharuk, former Ukrainian Prime Minister. But before that, Mr. Honcharuk, you've been quoted extensively in the global media as saying that Putin only recognizes power, not talks. He recognizes and respects only power. And you've said, if you don't stop Putin now, then this will be the beginning of a third world war. And you have also predicted that it's Ukraine tomorrow, Poland day after, and all of Eastern Europe after that. You presented a frightening scenario where Putin will just carry on moving ahead and ahead and ahead. Is that a guess? Or do you have some...
You're right.
Fundamental information on
right.
the basis of which you're saying that as a former Ukrainian PM?
Thank you for this question. It's a perfect question. As I already mentioned, it's not a war against Ukraine. It's a war against democracy as a model. That's why Russia has military conflicts with all democratic neighbors. Moldova, Georgia, now Ukraine. And it's very important to understand that that Russia used very broad number of aggressive, but not always military tools to undermine democracy in the world. Sometimes it's military coup, like in Balkans. Sometimes it's supporting anti-vaccination campaigns like in Germany and Europe. Sometimes it's about like compromising the elections in the United States. Sometimes it's creating artificial energy crisis in Europe, migration crisis in Europe, creating a puppet regime like in Belarus. Frankly speaking, Russia already annexed Belarus. So Belarus is not an independent country anymore. Belarus has only like official independence. But in the real life, Lukashenko is another one strongman. It's just a puppet of Mr. Putin. And Belarus now is totally controlled by Russia. Now you should understand that some part of these military tanks and forces came to the territory of Ukraine from the territory of Belarus. So formally, technically, two countries attacked Ukraine, Russia and Belarus at the same time. But we're speaking about Russia, first of all, because Belarus is only a tool. Belarus is only a puppet. So Russia playing globally, and it's not about Ukraine. It's about it's like building an empire against democracy and undermining democracy as a model in all over the world, even in the United States. Political murders, military coups, artificial crises. This is a very broad range of these aggressive instruments. But now Russia crossed the last possible line. Russia openly invaded, independent, the biggest in Europe, democratic, free country, openly invaded. And they failed already because Ukrainian military forces pushed back and destroyed a lot of their troops. And I believe that now the political crisis in Russia will start.
Will Putin stop at Ukraine? What will he do next?
I can hear you.
Will Putin stop at Ukraine? Will Putin stop at Ukraine? You think?
Dear Arnab, please repeat it one more time. I didn't hear you.
I will. Okay. So Oleksiy, what I said is, will Putin stop at Ukraine, or is he going to open up more flanks? Poland, Finland, other Baltic countries. Are his ambitions beyond Ukraine, or will it stop at Ukraine? That was my question.
Putin will stop because Ukrainian forces already stopped Mr. Putin. But Putin now is a big danger for all the world. Now they are playing in the region of our nuclear power plant, Chernobyl region. They are playing their games. Now they can destroy some objects of critical infrastructure and create a huge damage to our country, and not only for our country. So Putin is a mad, absolutely crazy strongman with a red button. And we should realize that Putin can go as far as we let him go, you know? So it's very easy to understand. He invaded Georgia in 2008, 14 years ago.
Last question to you, Mr. Honcharuk, and this question comes to you. This question to the former Prime Minister of Ukraine on the Coup social media app comes from Ajish Nair, who says, it's a question from one of our viewers in India who says, Arnab, can you please ask the former PM of Ukraine, in the larger interest, Can Ukraine suspend the idea of joining NATO?
Look, it's a sovereignty. Ukraine is a sovereign country, and it's our decision to choose our tools to defend ourselves. So for us, for Ukraine, NATO is only a tool to live peacefully and to be protected. It's only a tool. It's not an ultimate goal, because Ukrainian nation is a peaceful nation. We are not going to attack somebody. We just want to live peacefully. And maybe you know, then many years ago, during more than 25 years ago, Ukraine gave up our military third in the world military potential to Russia, and signed the Budapest Memorandum. And the big countries, global countries, Russia, United States, UK, promised us and gave us guarantees that our sovereignty and territorial integrity will be protected. And we was betrayed, because we gave up our nuclear weapon, and then in 25 years, more than 25 years, we are invaded by Russia. And Russia operates our military, our nuclear weapons. That's very important to understand. That Ukraine made everything possible previously, everything possible, not to create a threat to the neighbors and to the world, because we are not going to attack. We just want to live peacefully. And for us, NATO is the only visible and credible tool to feel and to live more or less, to be more or less protected, globally protected. Because of course our troops can push back and can fight Russian troops. But anyway, in the end of the day, Russia has absolutely overwhelming, absolutely incredible amounts and tons of resources spent on their weapons. And we don't want to spend all our budget, all our money, all our future to become more and more weaponized. It's one-way ticket for in our understanding. That's why the NATO model for us is a good model, because we are ready to be a part of a global security infrastructure, global order infrastructure, but not to expect and not to be attacked or invaded by our neighbors. For Ukraine, it's only a tool.
Yes. Well, Mr. Honcharuk, all I'd say is stay safe, and I look forward to talking to you again. Lot of responses to what you're saying from our viewers across India. That's Oleksiy Honcharuk, former Prime Minister of Ukraine.